My name is Beth McDonald Stone, and I'm an avid knitter and knitwear designer coming to you from Bermuda. It's chilly here. Just got back from New York City, which was really cold, and it has hit almost record lows for Bermuda too. So, thank goodness for our woolly knits. So I thought I would give today a big recount on Vogue Knitting Live and everything that I saw and my takeaway points. Two really main ones. So stay tuned for that. What I wore, and my haul. So that's kind of the plan for today. Um, let's dive right in. So featured pattern, what I wore in New York. It was really cold, so I actually had to buy a new coat when I was there. It was just too brutal. I had a really good winter coat. It got really funky smelling in storage, so tried cleaning it. It didn't clean, and I had to basically check it before travel, so that sucked. But anyways, great thing with modern retail. I was able to have a coat sent to my hotel room, but I had to travel with a lighter coat, and it was so cold when I arrived. It was just brutal. But anyways, the new coat's amazing, and technology and outerwear is incredible. And it was cold beyond what really woolly knits could do. Like I had my favorite mittens and stuff like that, and it was just too cold. You needed like puffer everything. And once I had the puffer everything, I was off like a racehorse and ready to walk in the city, which I did. So, but basically when I travel, nothing really rocket science here, but I like to pick a color theme and I stick with it. So this trip's color theme was this kind of deep olive green. It's one of my absolute favorite colors. And so everything I packed was that with basically black as my secondary color. And it worked so well because it was so cold and I had to layer up so many layers. Everything worked with each other, and I was off the races with again, sorry. With my a very limited wardrobe, I could really layer it on and stuff like that. So if you want a packing tip, pick one color and a neutral. My neutral is always black. And it just makes for such an easy trip. And I was really grateful for that because packing for sweaters and winter trips is cumbersome. I mean, before you're an overpacker, like even just your basics, it's really cumbersome. So this way it really worked, and everything layered and kept me warm with my new coat, and it was a lot of fun. So this was one of the sweaters that I did take. This is one of my all-time favorite patterns. One of my designs called the Creeping Fig. Let me just make sure because I'm not really good at names, so I forget quite often. But yes, this is the Creeping Fig pullover, boxy pullover. It's by me. I'll have this on sale in my Ravelry pattern library, link below. 20% off until February 27th, usual 2 week lead time. I knit this using Rerum Natura Gilliatt color Forest. It's a great color, love it so much. And basically this is part of my series of boxy raglan. So you've got basically a raglan shaping, but instead of increasing on every second row for the body, you increase every row, and it happens really quickly. So basically you double the width of the body and keep the increases every other row, like a traditional raglan, for the sleeves. So your sleeves stay sort of a more fitted, not really fitted, but not as oversized. So it comes out with a really nice proportion. Sorry, one souvenir I brought back from New York was a chest cold or a head cold, which is on its way out. But you might hear it in my voice and I might cough. Anyways, that ratio of doubling the body and keeping this as normal creates a really beautiful proportion that I really love. I love a boxy fit. I'll just stand up. I'm wearing leggings underneath. I've been sewing a lot and wore a lot of cords that I've been sewing. So cotton corduroy is just such a fantastic fabric for cold. And then when it was really cold, I'd layer leggings underneath that. So anyway, so I've got the leggings underneath it. But this proportion is great. I think it's really flattering. There's a really simple sort of lace cable chart here in the raglan detail. And I've done mine with 3/4 sleeves. I went through a phase of liking 3/4 sleeves. I still do. I think basically what happens is in Bermuda, we can have like a couple years of sort of mild moderate winters, and then we'll have a doozy like this year. So I think for the doozy this year, you'll notice that most of the sleeves that I knit right now are very long. And then on the mild weather, I do a lot of 3/4 because I do push things up. And also because I like to work with my hands a lot, I actually kind of like that free space. So I've got quite a few sweaters that are 3/4 length and quite a few that are full length. And of course, when you're knitting this pattern, you knit the sleeves as long as you want and whatever works for you. But that's why those are that length. It must have been a warmer weather year. And I love Gilliatt. I did snag it while I was away, and I've got to fix that. You can see that one pulled stitch there. But I would like to say that I find Gilliatt a really lovely wearing yarn. There's a few tiny baubles, but I have not gleaned this at all. And it's just a workhorse yarn. I also love knitting with it because it's a really bouncy yarn. It's a really round, bouncy yarn. And so it's great for lace. It's great for cables. And it's just a really nice, enjoyable yarn on your needles. Once you get into that rhythm, it's a really lovely rhythm to be in. And I love Rerum, Natura, Gilliatt, and Ulysse. I think they're basically the same construction, just different weights. But anyways, so the Creeping Fig Boxy Pullover is on sale now in Ravelry, linked below. No coupon required, just the usual. So I like to pick a color story when I travel. And ironically, when I was traveling, also I picked the same color story to knit on. So I knit these great socks while I was away, and really lovely pattern. These are the Cozy Autumn Socks by This Handmade Life, and the yarn is Les Garcons BFL sock in the color Mysterious Frogs. It was one of their mysterious sock sets that I bought a couple years ago. Les Garcons, Max and Vincent are so good with their color, and I love everything they do. So that was really great. Anyways, here's the sock here. Really beautiful lace pattern, and the perfect knit for travel because it had enough interest but nothing that I really needed to fully concentrate. And I find sort of when I travel, I do spend a lot of time in my hotel room. I like to walk. Oh, sorry, something just tipped over outside. I like to walk a lot, especially in a city. New York is a walking city. And then I like to spend a lot of time just relaxing in my hotel room. And this was a perfect pattern of relaxing in the hotel room. Nothing totally taxing, nothing that was going to do my head in. And something that I could do actually, I find hotel rooms at night, kind of dim lights. I should travel with those the neck light things, but I never remember, and I'll put it on my list. So it was perfect for hotel room knitting, and it was really great. The other thing that I'm just pausing to say is that there was a limited stitch repeat, which is also great because during the evening when I couldn't see the stitches very well, I knew I was only maybe 15 or 16 stitches off, so that was really fine too. So I could basically just trust the pattern, knit fairly blindly, and it all worked out. So I really enjoyed it. This is the perfect travel knit. And I also paired it with another perfect travel knit, which was just another version. So now I guess we're whips of the Weekend Hat by Petite Knit, and this is just a 1x1 rib in the round for 14 inches, basically. A few double knit sections for the fold lines. I think I just completed one up here that's hidden up here, and then another one down here. And this will be just another hat. My last one was a hit with my husband as well. So I'm knitting a second one, and this is in the same yarn that I knit the first one, which is Dimond Laine Percy, and it's the color Radish, which is a really fun one. He chose it, so that's great. So yeah. So travel knitting is limited, and these were really perfect. They were small, they fit into my bag, and they weren't adding bulk to my packing because winter packing is tough. There's a lot of stuff you need and a lot of layers. Anyways, so that worked out really well. The other thing that I did start was, and I think I'm going to frog them, and it's not the pattern, it's not anything. It's just I started a fingerless mitt the Cielo, which is a design by EweKnit Toronto. And I'm going to frog it just because I don't think I've got the right yarn. It's a bit too many flecks, like too busy for this pattern. And I don't think I need fingerless mitts anytime soon. So that was just these two yarns held together for that, which is, I think this is Chelsea Luxe leftover Camoflauge Mohair and a leftover La Bien-Aimée green Yona, maybe? No, I think it's more of an emerald green. I can't remember what that is called. Just leftover yarn from other projects that I just thought I would take. So I have 3 projects just to have options, but I really didn't work on that one, and it might get frogged. I'm just gonna leave it in the bag and it will decide itself. So that's sort of the traditional sort of knitting, what I've been doing. If you saw before my blanket here, I ripped out all the way back to the brioche section here, sort of where the houses and the brioche met. I have been working on it. I obviously didn't take this with me. This is just too much knitting. This is the Stephen West Houses of Reykjavik blanket, and it's a fabulous knit. I am really enjoying it. But if you watch the last episode, you'll notice that I had to rip it back because I had unfortunately offset this section. Where's a good part to show you? I guess over here. I had offset, unfortunately, the brioche half a repeat to the Houses of Reykjavik. So basically there was 2 points pushing at each other. So I tried my best and watched last episode. It was really a worthwhile process to go through trying to work surgery, because in theory, if I could get all the brioche stitches on needles, I could just shift it and sew it back on in the right orientation. That didn't work just because of the increase sections and decrease sections of the brioche. I went through the process. I videoed a lot of it, which you can see. And I learned a lot about brioche and stuff, and also picking up stitches. I'm definitely not as worried about it as I might have been before. And it didn't work, but that's okay. I love knitting. It was great to have a break while I was in New York. I'm back at it now, working furiously at it. I am very much a monogamous knitter, so that you'll notice that I haven't got a lot of other projects on my needles because of that. I'm keen to get this done. I'm almost back to the place that I was when I had to rip it out. I think that'll be later on today, and then I hopefully will have it finished for you to show you next episode. And I'm really excited. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful design. It's not difficult at all to knit. I just recommend that you read the pattern thoroughly, which I didn't really. So that goes to show you. And when it blocks out, all of the sort of puckering and stuff should work out. I am a little curious how I'm going to block it out. It is such a big project, but I don't know, bathtub and just laying it out in the sun. Probably that's going to be as much as I do. I don't think I'll be able to tack it onto anything because it's so massive. But we'll see. Not my problem for today. Anyways, stay tuned for that. That's what I'm really working on to get finished. And I do also have another design that I'm ready to knit up. I just want to get this done first. So that's that. So those are pretty much the traditional knitting portion of the episode today. Now I'd love to talk to you about Vogue Knitting Live. I've been going for many, many years. I think my first one was in 2016. So this would be the 10th minus one for COVID. So 9th I've been to. And I do think Vogue Knitting Live is changing. It's definitely changed since pre-pandemic, and I went to the one in 2020. It's the very last one before everything shut down for the pandemic. And that was a very different Vogue than it is now. And I think the big takeaway is the change is the marketplace. Before, the draw might have been the marketplace, and the secondary item on the list were the classes. And I can confidently say that the marketplace is not what it used to be. It's good. It's not what it used to be. But the real main reason to go to Vogue is the classes, or are the classes. The classes are phenomenal, and the teachers are from all around the world. And that is really, I think, the big draw and what makes that festival really stand out. I know other festivals have classes and everything too, but I do think the topics covered and the teachers involved, the depth and breadth and just the variety is, I think, pretty much. I mean, you could probably maybe maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's probably unlike any other festival in the world, and I think that's great. I love classes, so that's really super. The marketplace is good, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But let's just focus on the classes for a minute. Over the years, I've taken a ton of classes. There was one year that I didn't take classes. I think it was the one right before the pandemic, and that was sort of a shame because um, I love the structure of the classes and stuff like that, and I just love to learn. I found I'm not very good at just floating around a lot and whatever, which I would do in the marketplace. But so the classes are really, really good. The ones I took this year are I took Continental knitting with Keith Leonard. I took reversible cables with Harry Wells and algorithmic stitch patterns with Xandy Peters. Now, I'll really quickly talk about each of the class. They were great. When I take the classes, always get a download before you print out. Now you print out before you go, which I hopefully helped anyone with a heads up about that because that was a surprise to me last year. And I knew it was a surprise to some people in my classes this year. So in the download, there might be homework, which, you should do. I sometimes do. I can usually figure it out in the class and just catch up. I usually take just like a little bag like this with little yarn nuggets, and I take my needle case, my knitting needle case, which isn't around with me, and I just go ready to dive in. The first one was the Continental knitting, and it's so funny. You have traveled within the knitting community and made friends and stuff like that. And one of my dear friends, Maureen, has always talked about another friend of hers named Keith Leonard, who she loves his yarn dyeing and stuff like that. And I hadn't made the connection. And then as soon as I sat down, all of a sudden the light went off, and I'm like, oh, so it's neat. Classes are fun also because, I don't know, connects the dots. It was fun to meet Keith Leonard and to be taught by him. He was an excellent teacher. So you can see here, I'm pretty okay with garter stitch, which basically is the knit stitches in Continental knitting. I get pretty wobbly around when I'm purling, and I just have a hardest time to get this finger to flick the yarn. I need to practice more, and I'm tempted to pick up something rather really simple cast on and just maybe if really nothing, like maybe it's just some scrap yarn that I have no need for or no huge love of, that I just knit maybe a cowl in the round, or maybe I should have knit something flat to really practice knits and purls. But that was really good. And then up here we were working on color work, and not to jump ahead, but I just really liked how that color work, when I wasn't paying attention to my floats, worked out. So that could be a fun stitch pattern on a cuff. I think that'd be a really fun cuff or a hem. But anyways, the Continental knitting was great. I have been an English style thrower for my entire life. But I do Continental when I do color work. So one in one hand, one in the other. So the knit stitches were pretty easy. He gave 2 or 3 different ways of working the knit stitch, which is amazing, or even holding the yarn in advance, over under your index finger, things like that. Super helpful. Also with the purl stitch, it was a really, really helpful class. It's just something that I really need to practice, and I hope I will. It's not something that I urgently need to know how to do, but I think it would be great, and I'd like to be versatile, for whatever reason. I'd like to be versatile. So that was great. Wonderful to meet Keith Leonard. Recommend his classes and his yarn. He had some yarn with him. He's got a really beautiful new yarn coming out with sequins in it, and it was stunning. Sorry, one more cough. The other class I took was, all 3 were amazing. The second one was reversible cables with Harry Wells, another great teacher and really patient, because it's a bit of a mind-bending class. You know, how do cables get to be reversible on the front of a fabric and the back of a fabric? I'm going to pause here because I'm going to cough. Sorry about that. It was a big cough. Anyways, so basically he taught us two ways of reversible cables. I'm just holding one way, which is reversing. If you can see, the cables are reversed here. So you have negative stitches between the cables, and you can use that space to make cables. That was so cool. Really neat. You can see here I had a bit of a problem with garter stitch, and my compulsion, of course, is to purl with the purl stitches. But anyway, so that's, you know, that wasn't what I was focusing on here. That was really cool. The other one that I thought was really amazing was to learn to, because ribbing fabric is a reversible fabric, so to work cables in a rib. So these are cables in a rib, and it looks like that on one side and the exact same on the other. It was really, really cool. I'm just hiding it because I think it's confusing with this middle section because they're two different cables. But yeah, so that's, and then we talked a lot about other options, you know, how to extend that, and where this works particularly well and where it might not work in other ways. But fascinating. And yeah, I just thought that was amazing. Really something that I'd like to design with, you know, something maybe of a scarf or a shawl, or not that I would ever wear one of those bandana headbands, but I could see this be really fun because then you could just plunk it on, no problem. If you had long hair and you wanted something like ear covering and headbands and stuff like that. But this was an amazing class. So Harry Wells, another amazing teacher. Can't recommend him enough. If it's ever on offer, totally take that class. And then the third class was Algorithmic Stitch Patterns with Xandy Peters. That was another amazing class. And that was more of a theoretical class. Unfortunately, I had been home the night before with friends, people that I usually go out with. We've been going out for years on the Saturday night. And it was a late night. And and I don't do late nights at all. So I have to say Sunday I was tired. And it was an afternoon class, and the room was lovely and still and lit. There was no air movement, and I just sat down and I just started to get too sleepy. So I made it to the halfway point, to the intermission, or the halfway break, and I actually excused myself. So it was not the class. Xandy is an amazing teacher. I just didn't want to be the old lady with white hair in the back doing this. That's a little embarrassing. Anyways, so that class, Algorithmic Stitch Patterns, was basically, so it was more of a theoretical class, and looking at different ways to basically knit without a firm pattern, you know, like there's no cable pattern, there's no lace pattern, but basically set yourself your own rules that you work some stitch at some point. So an example of that would be the intentional pooling, you know, the intentional pooling yarns, where you would say knit in stockinette until you got to a blob of another color, and then work a different stitch of that color, and then return to stockinette for the rest. And then it will come up with a interesting pattern. And so that's sort of the idea of algorithmic stitch patterns. Another one that Xandy started us off with was using the simplest lace technique, which is knit together, yarn over, so just making like a eyelet, and creating a rhythm where in X many stitches you have to work X many eyelets, and try to do that through a pattern, through fabric, and then you can shift it, so you can change it. Say if it's like working 3 eyelets per row to working 4, 5, 6, and trying to keep it looking unintentional or random. That's the word. And then there was a discussion on, you know, random is random. things like that. It was a really interesting, very theoretical. There was definitely people that were from the math community in that class, and it did get a bit esoteric and wonderful. And I really wish I hadn't have been fatigued. I think in the first half I did get most of the idea of it, and I'm grateful for that. Oh shoot. Um, and the interesting reason why Xandy came up with this class, which really does resonate with me, was because he was trying to enjoy fades, like color fades that have been so popular, but noticing that the fades sort of have blocks. And yes, you can do sort of like one row of this and then two rows of that, and fade it in differently and getting really close colors, but trying to make a fade look more random, more fluid, which would have to be more random than linear. And of course, because knitting is a very linear process, it's sort of very data, like almost like an old typewriter, right? You go back and forth and back and forth. We have a very linear method, but trying to break that up in a not patterned way. So I thought that was really, so sorry. Talking is a problem. It's just my last bit of cough. And the great thing was I can't dance. I can't give you my cold. The internet is wonderful. I had a few meetings this week online, and I was so grateful for online because things could keep on going. Anyway, sorry, that's a weird tangent. So anyways, yes, 3 amazing classes. I think for those going to Vogue Knitting in the future, if you're considering going, go for the classes, go for the lectures, go for that sort of stuff. The marketplace was fine. It was okay. There's a lot of new faces. I understand that the booth costs are a lot higher than they were pre-pandemic, just with where the state of cost of living has gone up. I think cost of everything has gone up, and the cost of the booth prices have gone up. I think it's logistically a tricky marketplace to work because you have to be in and set up very quickly and take down and out very quickly in a hotel setting with limited car truck access because you're in Times Square of New York City. So I do think logistically it's a tricky one, and it's an expensive one for the vendors. So I think the vendor numbers are down. There was a lot of more of smaller companies, maybe one and done, trying to get their names out there. There were other companies that weren't really knitting, that were kind of knitting adjacent. Some that I didn't really understand what they were, whatever. And then there were some empty booths too. So yeah, so the marketplace wasn't amazing as it has been, but it was okay. And I still did well. One more cough, sorry. I'll try to cut those out, but I'm not great at splicing. So anyways, bear with me. So the marketplace was fine. There was a few familiar faces that I saw, which were great to see, and some other new ones, which were great. And I talked to some vendor who came up all the way from Texas, drove up from Texas. That's really cool. And some more local people. Yeah, so that's great. The one thing I did notice in the market that was a huge trend is that I think Vogue Knitting has always been more the sort of superwash yarns, and say Rhinebeck is more of the farm yarns, and that's always been how I've approached it. Like I stock up there in farm yarns, and I stock up at Vogue Knitting and superwash, and that's always worked out well. I think it's still very much the same. I know Vogue last year had tried to push a bit more farm yarns, creating a section for that. That didn't continue this year. But the trend that I did notice was a trend to cashmere. Sorry, cashmere and alpaca. That seemed to be the sort of fiber of the moment. And and it's interesting. Of the yarns that I purchased, most of them have have cashmere or alpaca in it. But I don't think it was also just my eyes seeing only cashmere and alpaca. I think from general consensus of talking with friends after, that seemed to be really what was there, which was nice, and I think that's really interesting, and interesting yarns to work with. So I'm going to talk about my haul. I'm going to pause it one more time. Hi, back again. Sorry, I had a sip of water and I've got halls here, but I don't want to put a halls in my mouth because it'd be hard to talk. And it's funny when you're homesick and you don't really talk to anyone all day, you think, oh, no problem. I can totally podcast and I can have a conversation. But anyways, I don't, I had obviously hadn't practiced to see if my voice worked that well or for that long. So we'll keep this part kind of short. And let's talk about my haul. I hate that word. I don't like it. It seems vulgar. But anyways, whatever. It is what it is. My purchases and beautiful acquisitions for creative endeavors. So at Vogue Knitting, Asylum Fibres is usually there. And she was again this year. Stephanie, I think, Asylum Fibres. I'm a huge fan. Love her. I love her colors. They're really, really interesting. So, and then on the soft theme, I am enjoying these kind of blown yarns. So this is her Cloud Bulky, which is an alpaca mix. And the color is submarine, and I'm really excited for this. So I'm picturing a sweater in this. I have a sweater's quantity. I'm really excited for that. And I kind of have a vague idea in my head, but nothing has totally formed, but the color is perfect. This is another color that I'm really, really loving. So this is another color family that I'm really excited to explore more and include in my wardrobe. The lady from Texas, who I was talking with, she was selling this amazing yarn from Australia, actually. And it's amazing just because it's so soft. And so, I mean, the drape is incredible. Unfortunately, the lady from the store from Texas said that this person is no longer dying. But I just thought it was beautiful. And it's from Black Wattle Yarns, Australia. And it is an alpaca, silk, and cashmere mix. And it's just to die for. The color is latte. And I love it. I think it's just gorgeous. And I think it's a really nice neutral because there's a bit of pink in there, a bit of gray, there's a richness, there's a creaminess to it. And I thought that was really pretty. So that's great. When I went to Vogue, I had in mind I wanted to get a natural white, off-white color to go in a new design that would be the color work, so it would have a flocked effect. I had started that project before. The yarns weren't quite right. Stopped, ripped it back with the intention of picking something up. And this is what I found. It's exactly what I wanted because I really want the sort of wild hairs to show up. And this is called Surrey DK from Camellia Fiber Company. And so stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll have some of this new design on my needles when we next chat because I've been working on this design for so long and I just itching now to get going on it. But I was waiting for this. This is the missing link. I have it now. And Camellia Fiber Company really got a lot of attention. This was sort of the big booth for the year, I think. The Wandering Flock was a big booth too, but the Camellia Fiber Company was really special. They've changed their colors this year, so I thought it was sort of unique. Where Wandering Flock, I'm a huge fan. Purchased it from them a lot. Their color palette is great. Really love it. Camellia Fiber Company, I've admired from a distance before. Their color palette has historically been a little too pastel for me. But they're changing their color palette, and so I picked white. But anyways, no, I went for this. But their color palette's changing. They seem to be doing some interesting things, and someone to watch. I think they were really exciting. At dinner on Friday night, I went to another dinner that I've been going to for 3 years, I think, with friends, and that's really fun. That's with my friend Shannon of Whiskey and Wool and my friend Lorian from Knitting Monologues. And friends that we hang out with. I hung out with some of the friends, I think most of them this summer too. They're all in the kind of Connecticut, New Jersey, New York area, which is great. So we can get together. Love hanging out with them. Shannon, check her podcast out and Lorian's as well too. But Shannon is a spinner and a beautiful spinner, and she gave me this incredible hand spin The fiber was from Melly Knits. Gosh, a mixture of Cormo and Merino um, with some sari silk. And so I can't wait to use that. Interestingly, definitely on a color theme, that works really well together. And that works really well together. I don't know if I'll do those together, but it just gives me an idea of a launch pad. But I can totally see some sort of smoky blue with this coming in my future. So thank you so much, Shannon. Beautifully spun. I really hope, I think next year, I'm really in this sewing kick right now. I took a sewing class this summer in New York. Excuse me. And I took a spinning class in New York this summer too, but I am good at practicing one thing at a time. So I focused on the sewing. I'm loving, loving, loving the sewing. I'm now making all my own clothes, which is amazing. I didn't purchase one item of clothing except for that winter coat and mitts in New York. And that was a puffer coat. I don't think I'd ever make one of those. But anyways, never say never, right? Anyway, so that's really cool. But I would like to learn how to spin, and I'd like to practice, and I think it's all about practice. So that might be next year. We'll see. But Shannon has really mastered it, and it's a beautiful, consistent spin and gorgeous colors. So that's great. The one other event I did go to was A Night to Remember, I think is it called? Something like that. And that was an event hosted by Mayak. I went there on Friday morning before my first class, and that was really great. Always fun. Mayak have a lot of their yarns. Gilliatt was down from Quebec with her yarn, fabulous. The ladies from Finland, from Line Magazine, were there with their magazines and books, which is amazing. I love their books. I need to place an order for more books. I didn't want to carry books back. They're very heavy. And so I might as well ship them, and shipping they're duty free for Bermuda. And they are duty free at the airport too, but you have to actually carry it. Anyways, Lina was there, and then Brooklyn General with the La Bien-Aimée yarns were there too. So really great event. Oh, and the Wandering Flock. You can see in my head I'm going around the room. The Wandering Flock were there too. So Wandering Flock were in two places, which was amazing. They must have been preparing for months. That's a great event, great space, great natural light, really intimate space, cozy, beautiful, really fun. I love Mayak, and I was on my green kick, and this green version, this smoky green, was really cool and caught my eye. So I purchased this and this to do a sweater quantity. I can do enough of a sweater in one, maybe held with this too. I have an idea for a brioche version of my Hamilton sweater. So that would be that. We'll see how it goes. In theory, I think it is totally doable. We'll just have to see. So stay tuned. But Mayak yarn, so this is probably the only one that doesn't have like a cashmere or suri in it for me. But Mayak yarn is just so lovely and special. And that was great. So yeah, I did quite well in the haul. I did quite well adding to my lovely yarn collection, which keeps me inspired and going downstairs. And yeah, it was really fun. It was a really, really fun weekend. I did go for a week. I have, chores to do. I got my hair cut. I mean, I get my hair cut in Bermuda, but I just, I had free time. So I got my hair cut in New York. I do chores. I pick up stuff that we can't really get here easily, can't get here unless we ship it in. So there's just basically like pharmacy stuff and a few grocery stuff like spices and stuff. So, and then I just walk my tootsies off. And I also like to go to museums and galleries, which I did a lot of that too. And just had a lovely time. So really a great week. Vogue Knitting Live is great. New York City is really fun. I would totally recommend going in the future. So see the city, visit Vogue Knitting Live, but really focus on the classes and the lectures. They're the best. I don't think you can beat them anywhere in the world. And that's what I think Vogue Knitting is really separating itself as really special for. Yeah. And so that's my takeaway. I think that's pretty much it for now. Now my voice and my throat seem to be cooperating. Should I tell the whole tale again? No, I'm not going to. It won't work then. Um, I hope everyone's well and happy and knitting and cozy. And I know for the East Coast, it's unseasonably cold like us. West Coast, I hear from my friend Tassie that it's actually unseasonably warm. So stay cool there. And wherever you are in the world, I hope you're comfortable and happy and have lots of good knits to keep you really busy. So I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Thanks so much. Bye.